don't go through the eye of a storm. The only way out is through.
Yeah, something so true that you can't fix people.
I've always tried to solve conflicts in my relationships, but it's met with anger.
I hate that.
Hi guys, welcome back to our channel, Better Together. I am here with my very best friend Anna.
And I'm here with my loving and caring best friend Sabrina. How are you today, babe?
I am great. I am wonderful.
Why?
Because when I'm with you, we're better together.
Babe, what are we gonna be talking about today?
Well, today we're talking about embracing conflict.
And it's a very personal topic.
Yeah, it's a very personal topic for us because we're coming off of a rough week.
Yes.
We had quite a week this week. It was like one conflict after the other between us.
It was a situation that became like a domino effect, and
one domino fell and all of them came crumbling down. Not to say that we have an unhealthy relationship or we don't solve conflicts, but it was just that one thing happened and we didn't quite talk about it. We kind of put it under the rug, and then another one happened and another one, and it was just like all under there. And if you've watched our videos before, we're very big advocates for communicating your feelings and talking about them, and we didn't talk about them. I think we didn't have the time. We were so busy with our jobs and stuff, and there was a little like resentment, not deep resentment or anything,
not at all,
but resentment from unresolved conflict
and something that needed to be talked. Like, hey, there wasn't peace. Like, I am carrying these, and you, same as you, like, we weren't carrying these as well.
And we didn't quite reconcile with each other until we talked about it. We went through the conflicts and we talked about it. And after we talked about all the things that happened in the week, we came back together much better.
Stronger? Yeah.
With a renewed understanding of each other.
Yes, because even though that we are in this place in our friendship and we understand each other so well, that doesn't mean that we are not going to have conflict. Like, even in the healthiest relationships, you still have certain things that this is a hiccup. So we have learned to embrace these situations inside our relationship,
and because we embrace the situation rather than running away from it, we came back much closer to each other and with a renewed sense of understanding for each other, understanding more about what your flaws, more about what your boundaries are, what are your red flags, and you also understood me. And through that, I think I told you that I feel like you're preparing me for my future relationship. I feel like the way we problem solve, the situations we go through, I learn from them. I come out of conflicts with you learning things about myself.
Same, because it happened to me as well. Like, it is a mirror, you know, like when something happens, and I have heard some people saying like, what you don't like about others, it's what you don't like about yourself, but you're denying that you don't like that about yourself. So we always learn something about ourselves after coming out of conflict.
So what we're talking about today is how embracing conflict can improve a relationship
and be healthy.
And what I want to throw to you, Anna, is there any benefit of embracing conflict in your mind? Or have you seen any benefit in our relationship?
Oh, babe, I have seen, because in a previous video I was talking about how I was running away from conflict or not even engaging because I didn't feel comfortable talking about how I felt or about certain things. So it definitely has some benefits because I've learned how to handle conflict with care, how to de-escalate certain situations, and how to handle everything with love and care for the other person, and step out of my ego and my pain to see where the other person is coming from. Because even though that sometimes I am the one being hurt, that doesn't take away the fact that I know that the other person loves me. So, and conflict, even though that you're hurt, everything needs to be taken care with love and with kindness, because the other person is also coming from some place, you know, and sometimes we don't understand or we don't see what is in their minds or why they reacted that way. So definitely one of the positive situations that I've learned, it's how to handle conflict with kindness and a lot of love and care.
I think that's the first step in order to fight well in a relationship. Not only friendships, romantic relationships as well.
Every relationship
is to handle conflict with care. And once conflict is handled with care, it builds trust. Yeah, because then you feel, if you feel that you can trust the person with your vulnerabilities, with your shortcomings, like I now know the things that hurt you, and before you were running away from conflict, maybe you didn't feel safe enough to say, I'm going to speak my mind or talk about what hurts me. But then when you tell me the things that I've done wrong to hurt you, or I've said to you, this thing hurt me, I now have, and you handle it with care and compassion, and validate my feelings, and I validate yours, and there is mutual understanding. There is now trust between you and I to say, okay, I can trust her with my heart and my vulnerabilities.
And that is beautiful. Like, to get to that point, it is beautiful. You feel very safe. It also prevents resentment because we saw it. Like, during that week, we didn't have the time to talk about it, and the pain was just there, or the resentment, and that's why we're saying that we are coming out of a week, because it didn't happen only once, but it was one behind the other, and then another, and I told you that, hey, I didn't even notice. This is from my point of view. I didn't even notice that I was carrying certain things, even though that I told you, like, hey, I accept your apologies. Like, no need to apologize. Or in this case, we both hurt each other. And
from your side, you were telling me.
On my side, I was saying, like, hey, like, no need to apologize anymore. But I realized that I didn't let go the first day. You know, the first day. And in the upcoming days, I was coming, even though that in my heart and in my mind I had accepted the apology, my subconscious was still acting defensive. And I had to assess myself and step back and say, like, hey, why am I still reacting this way if we moved past the first day? And I realized that, I haven't let go completely.
We didn't even talk about it.
Yeah. So
that is the thing, like, when you go through the eye of the storm,
and you don't talk about it.
When you go through the eye of the storm, then you can feel some relief, because unheard pain causes resentment. You know, and has you have anger in your heart, resentment toward the person, because you feel, this person doesn't understand. And also conflict, when it's avoided, it has unanswered questions. And then once you have those unanswered questions, you start to make up the answers
for yourself,
because we need answers. That's what we do. When we can't, when we don't understand something, we make up questions, and then we answer the questions. And maybe we answered ourselves, and then the answer to your questions may be wrong. Maybe I wasn't even doing it in that way. You know, I remember with my sister, for example, when we fight, and we used to share a room, and then I would see some of my clothes on the floor from the basket. It was supposed to be the basket. She took up some clothes off the line, and I would see some of my clothes on the floor, and I would think, she spitefully did that. You know, I'm like, she spitefully threw my clothes on the ground, or she spitefully did something, just because we didn't talk about it. It was not resolved, and I just make up answers in my head about, she spitefully did that. She spitefully threw my clothes on the ground.
On purpose.
Yeah, on purpose. But then she just had a lot of stuff in her hand, and some of it fell, and she went out the other door, didn't see it, and I'm like, you spitefully did that. But no, I made up answers because I had questions, unanswered questions. And so when you ignore conflicts, you have unanswered question. And the same is, and the opposite is true. When you resolve those conflicts, you have answers from your partner, from your friend, about why they did certain things, and then you get the clarification that maybe they didn't spitefully do something. Maybe something in their past caused them to do this, or maybe something in their past told them that this is the way they react to certain things. And then when we talk about it, we can learn to understand that
oh, it's not how I thought it was. I was making up the answers very wrong. And yeah, that happened actually. Like when we, after the third day and after we had the time to talk about it, it's like, oh, I understand why everything happened. So, and that also creates respect. Like, because now I am able to put myself in your position and see where you're coming from, and everything made sense. You know. So and now, like, oh, I respect and I understand where you're coming from. And I was like, the story I told myself or the answers I told myself in my head were very wrong and far from reality. So yeah, that's another of the positive consequences of embracing conflict.
And also, what too, when you resolve the conflicts, go through it, you come out with a pure heart.
Yeah. And more love.
Yeah. And also
that happens a lot too. Like,
we fight and then I'm like, oh, I understand, I'm sorry, babe. And, and we're just more loving and like, I want to make up for what I did wrong. And you're like also making up and you're like, okay. And you feel
we're very soft with each other, like, oh, I love you. And
you feel more love, right?
Yeah. And something that happened, not to say that even though that we're going through a rough week, like we stopped loving each other, because even though the second day was on me and you weren't talking to me, but even though that she wasn't talking to me, she fed me. Like she saved a cookie, a biscuit, and some cheese, and you shared with me. So you, even though we weren't talking or we weren't resolving our conflict, and we were in that state of like, you were still taking care of me.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, and also that is what happens when you have a history of solving conflict, that you have a safe space. Yeah, because even in that week when we were, angry, uncomfortable with each other because we didn't talk about it, because we were too busy, we had work and stuff, because we had a history of solving conflicts peacefully and speaking. One of the days you came in and said, hey, can we talk? You came with so much love in your eyes and so much compassion toward me. You're like, hey, let us talk, and it was just so sweet, because that is our history. Because even
we don't walk away from each other.
So if you have a history of solving conflicts peacefully, handling it with care and putting out your vulnerabilities, there is a safe space to say, I won't be judged for my feelings, because sometimes the things that hurt you, I don't understand them. But that doesn't mean that they're any less important. And the things that hurt me aren't less important to me, just because you don't understand it or you don't understand the depths of it. Maybe I feel abandoned by certain things because I went through abandonment issues from childhood. Not saying I have those, but maybe some people struggle with those things, and you do something very simple and you think, wow, I didn't think it goes that deep, but my scars that you didn't cause, or you didn't know about them, you hurt them with certain action. And so you have to learn how to love each other. You don't just know how to love someone. I think love is a verb. And love is absolutely a verb. You have to actively
act on it.
Act on it, learn how to love someone. And the solving conflict brings us closer, gives validation to each other.
Because sometimes what you just said, like, maybe I don't understand where you're coming from, or where this scar from the past is coming from. I didn't even know, or sometimes we don't know, and it gives validation, because maybe in previous relationships we weren't treated with kindness from this scar, and sometimes we retreat ourselves. So, but when you talk about it and you feel safe talking about it, it gives validation, and it's like, okay, even though that this is painful for me, it is important for the other person. And I think it is hard to separate previous experiences with the one that you're having right now, because we create patterns and we act on stuff based on our previous experience
and our past.
So it is a little bit hard sometimes
But
to
that
get
is-
out of that pattern and say like, okay, let me act different on these
yeah.
conflicts.
But that is I think conflict in a relationship is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
That is where you get to unlearn those patterns that you have.
And break them.
And break them,
And
yeah.
heal things. Maybe like we talk about this, that we're healing each other's wounds that we never created, and that is beautiful. And we are learning to heal them
Yeah.
through conflict, like to
Yeah.
resolving conflict in a very healthy way.
Yeah, and that leads me to think, if you're in a relationship with someone, with a friend, a boyfriend or girlfriend, and they do not want to problem solve, I think they don't respect or value the relationship.
Or they're emotionally, like they're not emotionally mature enough to face that, because babe, 1 year ago, and we talk about this, 1 year ago I was still in the space where I was running away from conflict. Like this friendship taught me how to face them and voice my concerns and being heard, and being validated. So 1 year ago I wasn't this person towards conflict. I was running away from them.
I agree with you that sometimes it means that the person isn't emotionally mature. That's why they're not solving conflict. But what would you say in the situation where you go in a relationship and you're met with someone who brings kindness to the table when it comes to conflicts, that doesn't come with screaming, doesn't come with anger or judgment, but is open and wants to solve it, and there's just kindness at the table, and the other person is running away from it? What do you say about that? Because that's what I meant when I said, if someone doesn't want a conflict solved, maybe they don't value the relationship. How would you navigate that?
It could be that, or babe, I was in the other side, so maybe that person just doesn't know how to, or he hasn't had the time. That person needs to heal themselves first. If it's, because it could be both things. Someone doesn't care, or someone doesn't know how to and it's scared to face conflict. So we do have both sides, and it is reality that some people don't care at all to resolve the relationship they have with you, and in that case then you need to walk away as well. If they aren't fighting for you, why would you fight for them, and why would you chase them like, hey, let's resolve this, let's talk about this? But that person is just rejecting everything. Like, that wouldn't validate your feelings. That will actually make you feel like you're in the wrong, and that that you shouldn't be chasing them, and there is they don't value you.
Yeah, it would be like you're chasing them.
Yeah.
And I think for me, my advice to someone who's watching this, and you're like, I've always tried to solve conflicts in my relationships, but it's met with anger. It's met with, I don't want to talk about it.
Oh, I hate that.
I think that you need to, one, assess if that person is emotionally mature enough, and it is not your job to fix people.
Oh yeah.
So if you're in a relationship with someone and you're the one that's trying to solve it with peace,
all the time,
to talk through things, because I think I struggled with that in previous relationships. I was the one trying to fix it, and I was met with, why are you always complaining? But it's not complaining. I feel like we have to talk about things in order to get to the good part.
Yes.
If we didn't fight about things, and I'm not talking screaming, because we've never screamed at each other, but the space to say, I disagree with this. This is how I want to be loved. How can you learn to love me? How can we get closer? If we don't talk through it, if we don't go through the eye of a storm, the only way out is through.
Yes.
And so my advice to someone that is like always trying to solve conflicts, trying to talk through things, and someone is emotionally immature,
and running away,
I think you need to question if you want to keep that relationship, because you cannot get closer to someone that is avoiding conflict, and you're going to be the one chasing, like you're going to be the chaser, and
that doesn't feel good.
That doesn't feel good. Secondly, if you realize, okay, this person is emotionally mature, and you've seen emotional maturity in other areas of their life, and you realize they just don't want to fix anything with you, that person doesn't value you. Because you could be in a relationship with someone that is emotionally mature and intelligent enough, but they don't
care.
They don't value you enough to solve this problem. So you have to assess, is this person emotionally immature
and invested in the relationship as much as you are?
And if they aren't, then why are you with that person?
Yeah.
Or with that friend?
Mm-hmm.
And if they are just avoiding conflict, also why are you with them? They don't value the relationship enough.
You said something so true, that you can't fix people. You can't, and sometimes you cannot. Even though you want to fix the conflict, what are you going to do if you are just being met with speaking to a wall and be met with boundaries and like I don't want. I really don't like that phrase of I don't want to talk about
oh my
it.
God.
And we understand because sometimes we do give space to each other, like, hey, we're too heated. Let's talk about it later. But just like I don't want to talk about this.
At all.
No, that is not. I'm not on board with that. It is healthy to give space because sometimes in the moment it is maybe too painful, or we are coming from anger and it's not the right moment to talk about feelings because we could get very defensive or hurt with our words. But it's okay to take some space, like, hey, cool off your head, I'm going to do the same, and let's come back to this conversation later on.
So I do agree with you when you said like sometimes you do need to cool off, but there are moments when something happens not very big and you're like, you should talk about it immediately. Like some things, there's some huge things that if you say the wrong words, you absolutely will make a fool of yourself or ruin the relationship, you know, out of anger. You shouldn't make permanent decisions out of anger. But some small things I found out with us, like if I don't say it immediately, because it's so small, but it bothered me a little bit. If I don't say it to you immediately, like, hey, I didn't like that, I feel like I go away with resentment a little bit.
It happens, and in that case it's healthy to talk about it right away. And so it depends on the situation as well, because I could see how that little thing, if it's not talked right away, it could create a bigger situation later on.
And also because you become uncomfortable, like, should I talk about this? It wasn't that big of a deal. Should I go wait to bring it back up, you know?
But I think as well, when you learned or you have the space to do conflict in a healthy way, you know that you can voice even these things that you might be like, oh, am I being silly? It's not that big of a deal. But hey, you have the space to voice it out and still feel comfortable, like, hey, I didn't like this. And okay, like I will self-correct myself right away, and if I have to apologize, I will, like, hey, I didn't mean it this way. I'm sorry. So it doesn't become something bigger. So certain things, they need to be addressed right away. And this is all about doing conflict in a healthy way.
The point is, don't make a permanent decision out of anger. And our charge to you today and to us is to continue to problem solve healthy. And if you are not problem solving, if you're running away from conflict, that is only harming the relationship. The best thing you can do for your relationship is to embrace the conflicts. Go through the eye of the storm. Talk through it. It might be uncomfortable, and I think we started off uncomfortable.
Because I wasn't.
In the beginning, it was like, oh God, I don't, you know. But the closeness that you find, the intimacy, the bond that you create, the understanding that comes from just talking through things and embracing the conflict. So my charge to you is embrace conflict. No screaming. We don't have to scream about it. And we don't have to curse. We never curse at each other.
No, I think we feel safe because even though that we are going through all of this, we know that that is not taking away the love we feel for each other and the respect and all of the things that we've built previous that situation. So embrace conflict. Don't run away from it, and let us know how do you do conflict, or what kind of situations have you encountered in your life with conflict, and
please add to the conversation.
Yes, we would love to hear what you have to say, and we'll see you in the next one.
Until next time, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Bye.